Hey everyone, welcome to the Wilson Homestead. So, you haven't seen me on here for a while. I probably offer you an explanation for that. I'm just going to say that I lost somebody very special to me, and I just haven't felt like doing videos and stuff. So, I took a little break. Hopefully things can go back to normal now. But this next video that I'm going to show you, I actually recorded it I think at the beginning of April. And it's about planting my tomatoes, and I just never got it put up. So I wanted to kind of show you that video first because I'm getting ready to film a garden tour right now. And I was going to go through all of my tomatoes and all of that stuff. But I went probably more into detail on the varieties and stuff in this video. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this video from April, and I hope you enjoy it. Hey everyone, welcome to the Wilson Homestead. So today I am going to be starting my tomato seeds. Tomatoes, tomatoes. Tomatoes are one of my favorite crops to grow in the vegetable garden, and I am growing quite a few varieties this year, so let me show you all the different varieties and tell you a little bit about each one. So I narrowed it down to 18 varieties. That's as low as I'm going because I want to grow everything, but I don't have room for it. But 18 sounds like a good amount of varieties to have. Now, these first 3 seed packets I got from Heritage Seed Market, and they specialize in like dwarf varieties and some strange varieties that I've never heard of before. So if these seeds grow well for me and do well in the garden, well actually these are going in containers because they are dwarf varieties, but if they do well, I will probably try some more varieties from that company. And they were really reasonably priced. They were $2 something per pack, I think. I don't know. If you have any questions about like what I paid for these new seeds that I got this year, I did an earlier video about all the seeds that I bought this year, and I broke down the cost and everything on that video, so you can go check that video out. So let's get right into this. The first variety that I have here is called Pengelina Orange. Now this is a little dwarf tomato that is basically made for a hanging basket situation. I always grow 2 hanging baskets of tomatoes on my front porch, so that way if I'm making a salad, I can just real quick run outside on the front porch, get me some tomatoes for the salad, and it's really nice to have that convenience right out there on the front porch. So Pengelina Orange is a round cherry style tomato, and it's got a little point on the end. So I'm going to do one of these in a hanging basket, and I'm also excuse me, I'm also going to do a Gypsy Dancer, which is also a small tomato for a hanging basket. And they are just basic red tomato. They're kind of elongated. Wow. That was Cairo running across the floor upstairs. Okay, and the next one, they actually sent me this for free. This was a gift. This is Cranberries and Sugar Determinate Compact Tomato, and they're just little red tomatoes. So I think I'm going to have a special pot to put these into just because I want to try them. I think I'm going to go through all of the varieties that I've never grown before first, and then we'll get into the tried and true stuff after this. My next tomato is Chef's Choice Bicolor, and this looked like a beautiful tomato, and I've heard a lot of good things about the Chef's Choice tomatoes. They have several different colors, and I know that some of them are AAS winners, which is All America's Selections winners. And let's see, I think I have another one of those. Hold on just a second. I didn't sort these out too well. I'm pretty sure that I have black in here. Oh yeah, here we go. Also, I have Chef's Choice Black. And I am a huge fan of all of the black tomatoes. I love black creme. I love Cherokee Purple. Like all of that color tomato I really like. They're my favorite ones. Black Cherry. That's one of my other favorites that I have. So I thought, why not try a hybrid and see if we can grow these for longer in the season, because blight usually takes out my plants really fast. And next up, oh, I didn't tell you where these seeds are from. These seeds are from Seeds and Such, and I have quite a few in here from that company. This next one is also from Seeds and Such. This is pineapple tomato. I have grown this before, but I mislabeled two tomatoes that looked very similar. So I bought a new packet of seeds and I'm going to try it again and make sure that I don't mix my labels up this time. This is a large bicolor tomato and I think that it's going to be really tasty. It was tasty when I grew it before, I just didn't know which one was which. And another one from Seeds and Such. This was actually recommended to me by a viewer. They said you have to grow pink brandywine and you have to get the Sudeth's strain. So I want to give this one a try. This is like a basic red tomato, or well, pink tomato. So that will be fun. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that that one might be a West Virginia heirloom. I'll have to double check on that. And now I have a couple Baker Creek varieties here. Thorburns Terracotta. I am really excited about this one too. I think the two that I'm most excited about is the Thorburns Terracotta and the Ananas Noir. So we'll see how they do in the garden, but these are just colored beautifully and a lot of people say that they taste amazing. The packet actually says out of this world flavor. Alright, now this one is also from Baker Creek and I have grown this. I grew this last year and this is Paul Robeson. This was my daughter's favorite tomato last year, so I definitely have to grow this again. I did have some problems with leaf spot and blight, but I'm willing to give it another shot, just for her. Now I have a couple more seed packs here from Seeds and Such. The first one is Parks Whopper. Now this is an improved hybrid of Parks Whopper. It says Parks Whopper CR. And I grew the original Parks Whopper, gosh, it's been years ago. It was before I even started filming my garden. It was like the first garden that I had at my house. And this plant was amazing. And it, like I said, it was the original. This is an improved variety, so hopefully it'll do even better. The stalks on that plant were just massive, and the tomatoes were good. I mean, they were just a basic red tomato. They tasted like a red tomato does. And I was really pleased with that variety that year because, I mean, I had some massive tomatoes that came off of that plant, and really, my first year garden, I had no idea what I was doing. So, I mean, if a first year gardener can grow these and they turn out that great, then we'll see what I can do now that I have some knowledge under my belt. Another seed from Seeds and Such, and I should have ordered more of these. This is a hybrid seed, so if you want more of them, you have to order them. You can't really save seeds from hybrids. You might get something close, or it can revert back to the parent plants. So if you save seeds from a hybrid plant, you just don't know what you're going to get. But I love this tomato. This is one of my favorite tomatoes, and it's not because of outstanding flavor why I love this tomato. This is Juliet, and the flavor's good. Like, I mean, it ranks up pretty high, but it's not going to beat like a black cherry or, you know, something like that. Something that has a more complex flavor. It is decent. It's like a basic Roma style red tomato. They're smaller than a Roma, but they're really meaty inside, and I enjoy that. I don't like a lot of goop, so these are a great tomato, like for making sauce and stuff like that, but they're also really good fresh. And the reason why I grow this time and time again in my garden is because it is so blight resistant. It is like one of the first tomatoes in my garden to start producing, and it continues producing clear until frost. Way after all of my other tomato plants have succumbed to blight and leaf spot and all that, these keep going strong, and I love them for that reason. Next up, I have, now these just came from Lowe's. It's a burpee seed. It is called Black Krim, and I tried this tomato for the first time last year, and it produced great. And it's one of those darker tomatoes, and I really enjoy the flavor of those. So I am growing it again. And these seeds are very old. Let's see here. Packed for 2013. And I had really good germination last year, so hopefully I have good germination this year. If not, I did save some seeds that I can start in place of those. This is from M.I. Gardener. This is a triple crop tomato, and it's just like a basic red beefsteak slicer tomato. It has a pretty good flavor, kind of like that old-fashioned red tomato that, you know, a lot of people like that. I like different varieties. Like this makes an awesome tomato sandwich, but I like to, you know, try all the colors. But anyway, this tomato, it took it longer to produce than any of the tomatoes that I grew last year. And that kind of bummed me out at first, but as my other plants were, you know, getting done for the season, this one just started making some nice big ripe red tomatoes for me, so it was nice to have these at the later part of the season. And next up I have another M.I. Gardener variety. I grew this last year, and this is White Cherry. My husband really enjoyed this tomato last year, so I am growing it for him, and I was honestly amazed with the flavor of this tomato too, because a white tomato, I was, you know, just expecting it to be pretty bland, if I'm being honest. I grew Great White one year, which is a big white slicing tomato, and I didn't like it at all. I thought that it was bland, and I like a kick of acid. But these were surprisingly good. White Cherry. Now the rest of these are seeds that I saved from last year. And there is a chance that these, you know, could be crossed because I didn't bag the blooms. Like they say, if you want to save seeds, you should bag the blooms, and like to make sure that no bees get in there and, you know, spread pollen from one plant to the other. So if these end up being a little mix, I mean, I'm still going to get a tomato. So, you know. This is one of my favorites though, right here. Aunt Ruby's German Green. And to save these seeds, I basically just scooped out the goop and seeds and spread them out on a paper towel and just left them dry. And then I just pick the seeds off and plant them whenever it's time. But anyway, Aunt Ruby's German Green, it's a huge green tomato. It stays green when it's ripe, so you have to keep a close eye on these whenever they're in your garden, because they're going to look like they're not ripe yet, but they actually are. So you kind of have to give them a squeeze, and once you know what a ripe tomato feels like, this won't be a hard process for you. And also, another telltale sign to look for on these tomatoes is they get a little bit of pink streaking right on the bottom part of the tomato. but they are delicious. And this was one of my grandma's favorite varieties, and it's one of my favorite varieties, so I'm going to keep that in my garden every year from here on out. Another saved seed that I grew last year was Purple Bumblebee. It's a cherry tomato, but it's on the larger end of cherry tomatoes, and it's actually pretty meaty, and it doesn't crack very much in the garden, and I love that about this variety, and it's beautiful. So Purple Bumblebee is another cherry variety that I'm growing this year. And now my all-time favorite cherry tomato is Black Cherry. I can't say enough about this tomato. Now, it sucks because it gets sick so fast in the garden. It doesn't hold up well to blight or leaf spot or any of that, but the flavor is outstanding. And last year, I actually still have a packet of seeds that I could plant, but last year I planted 3 black cherry plants, and I know that I didn't switch up the tags or anything, but 2 out of the 3 ended up being just like a small orange tomato, not a cherry size, but like a small slicer, basic orange tomato. And I didn't grow anything like that in my garden last year, so I know that the seeds that I got weren't true to what was labeled on the packet. And you know, that happens sometimes with these seed companies. So I decided from my one and only black cherry plant that I had in my garden last year, I was going to save seeds, and I did. And so this is what I'm planting this year, just so I can be sure that I'm getting a black cherry. Alright, now we're going to get into planting these seeds, and it's going to be fun and awesome. Before we start actually planting seeds, I take this container and I pre-moisten some potting mix. The potting mix that I use is Premium Organic Vegetable and Herb Mix from ProMix. I have found that this ProMix does pretty well for me. Now, this soil, like I said, is pre-moistened. I put it in this tray here, and it's very dry because it's been stored in my basement, so I have to pre-moisten it, or if I wouldn't, it wouldn't hold water very well. If I would fill the cell trays up, the water would take forever to soak in. It would dislodge the seeds, and so I find that this is a lot easier just to go ahead and mix some water in. And this is moist but not sopping wet. You can see that when I squeeze this, no water comes out of it, but it holds its shape a little bit and then breaks apart easily. That is the texture that we are going for. And after I get the seeds sown in this mix, I will lightly water them in the first time, and then I will just keep an eye on it. And whenever it needs water, I will probably bottom water, especially with tomato seedlings. I always like to bottom water so that way you're not getting the leaves damp or any of the top part of the plant. So what I'm going to do to start my tomato seeds is plant several seeds in one pot. And after they grow for a little while, once they get their first true leaves, I will just separate them out and put them, each plant, into their own pot of this size. I'm just going to fill up this container, lightly pack it down. You don't want to be too heavy-handed when you're packing these down, because you want these little seedling roots to be able to get through this soil pretty easily. I'm only going to show you how to plant one of these pots because every single one is going to be exactly the same. I actually saved these seeds. These are black cherry seeds. And I'm just gonna peel a few of these off of here. I think I'm probably going to do about, I don't need to get carried away. I'm gonna go with 8 seeds per pot. And with these that I save, if you get pieces of paper towel on the seed, it's fine. I'm just trying to disperse them evenly throughout the pot so each one isn't so crowded. That way, when these grow up and I separate them and put them in their own pots, it's not so hard to get to them. But I'm just going to push these down in the soil a little bit, probably about 1/4 of an inch, and just cover them up. I'm so excited for black cherry tomatoes. It's one of my top 2 tomatoes. After I get them all covered up, I'm going to take some vermiculite and sprinkle over the top, just to keep that pesky green stuff from growing on the top of these pots. Now I'm going to water them in. This soil is already, like I said, pre-moistened, so we don't have to water these in too much. Okay. My label, I put Black Cherry S, so that way I know it's from Saved Seeds. I don't bag my blooms, so there is a possibility from the seeds that I saved from my garden last year that a hybrid could come of it. They may have cross-pollinated, I don't know. Okay, there they are, all under the lights and on a heat mat. Now, a heat mat isn't necessary since I'm growing these inside. My basement stays about, I'm going to say 65 degrees. So the heat mat isn't really necessary for tomato seeds, but it will speed up the process of them germinating. And my peppers have already germinated. They were on the heat mat before, so I just moved them over and put the tomatoes in their place. I'm so relieved that that job is done. It's been weighing on my mind. I keep thinking, oh, you're so far behind, and really I'm not. But it just helps my heart that it's done, and I know that my tomato plants are underway. Another tip that I wanted to share with you about growing indoors is that it's always a good idea to have a fan running on these seedlings all the time. And what that does, and it would be best to have like an oscillating fan, especially with a setup like mine where I have a few shelves so that way it can cover more ground. But what the fan is going to do is as these seedlings come up, that fan hits them, moves them back and forth, and you're going to have much stronger seedlings. And so whenever they get put outside to be hardened off, they're already going to have that tough stem in place, and you're going to have pretty strong plants to start out with. I hope you guys have really good luck growing your tomatoes this year. Let me know in the comments below what varieties that you're growing and maybe suggest me some new ones for next year. I'm gonna wrap it up here. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope to see you next time here on the Wilson Homestead. Bye guys.